I came to California, well, my parents brought me to Los Angeles in '44. That's coming from Texas. My father was in the Navy, so he moved from, I think, first Arizona, and Arizona was there for a couple of years. And from there, we moved into Los Angeles in the projects. And that was
Which
called
projects?
That was called William Meade Projects, in which is called Dogtown. My father was Monroe Jones Senior, and he worked in foundries and like the James Jones Foundry, which was right across the street from the projects. My mom was named Verdell Jones, and they both, my father and mother, was born in Texas and met and married in Fort Worth, and then came to, like I say, first Arizona, then Los Angeles. During the time that I lived with my parents, I had a cousin by the name of T.J. Huff that went to the penitentiary for, I guess, using or selling drugs, one or the other. And when he'd come out, he came out with a news that he wanted everybody to hear and accept, and that was a new religion for us. I knew. I knew about Christianity only before my cousin coming out of pen and giving us the information that he had obtained and gathered while in the penitentiary. And it sounded pretty good to my parents because they jumped in it whole hook, line, and sinker. They was definitely involved right away once they got a whiff of it, heard about it, and was told about it, because they would actually open up their home eventually to have the meetings there. Originally.
What's the religion?
It was Islam, and it was under the leadership of Elijah Muhammad. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad started the Islam that I'm talking about now. And how my cousin learned was from somebody that had probably come from where you were from and ended up in the pen or something, because they taught him Islam there. Probably, more than likely, that's what I figured. But I'm not sure about it, who the person was that taught him the Islam that he brought back to our home and our family. But he was the first cousin.
The meetings were in
the meetings was right there, should I say, at my parents' home originally. They got larger and larger, and as they went, we needed to get a hall. So the brothers that worked and was getting ready to start the Islam in Los Angeles would put their money together to rent this storefront to have their meetings. That's where we started. The first one I can recall is right there on Vermont and in the 4700 block of Vermont. Because at the time, they didn't only ministers that we actually had that would come to teach Islam here and to give us that knowledge was, well, Malcolm X was one of the first ones that actually came to the house and would teach the Islam to the people that would come over to our house for the teachings. When Malcolm would come to the house, I would go out the back door and hit the streets and get with the fellas. I was a youngster, and I wanted to be with the gang. I wanted to be with the fellas. When they grew so large and they named the mosque and got to the big mosque where I say they purchased it, named it Mosque 27, because I guess that's the way the numbers had grown up to that point. That's the way they
That was
went.
the 27th.
That was the 27th mosque in our country.
San Diego must be 26.
Yeah, because it was right before us.
Okay.
San Diego was right before us. I came in, I must have been 16, and I actually didn't get my X right away, but I kept trying until I finally got it. You used to have to write a letter to get your X, and that letter had to be to the Pacifics that they had set up before they would even pass it and give you the X. And I kept getting rejected because I wasn't doing it properly. And once I finally learned how to do it and sit it in properly, I then got my X, and my father was Monroe X, so I was Monroe 2X. And I met a brother, well, his name was Randolph. He became assistant. Well, he was working as assistant minister for a while, and he then ventured out into Long Beach, and he took me along with him, so I was his assistant minister for the time. And Brother Randolph used to have like a little hustle on, it wasn't on the side, that was his living. That's the way he fed his family and paid his rent. And that was picking up the sisters and brothers' clothes to be dry cleaned. in the mosque, we would go to their house and pick them up. And if we would miss them, we just so we would bring them to the mosque, and we knew because we knew we would see them at the mosque. And this happened often. We did it like that. And one particular night, I brought the brothers' clothes to the mosque with me, and when the mosque was over, I went to the trunk of the car that I was delivering the clothes in, or the clothes was in. He and the brother and myself walked to the trunk, across the street from the mosque, parked right there on Broadway in daylight. And when I opened the trunk, the police pulled up behind me, and they suspected us of selling stolen goods. They were used clothes, actually what they're calling stolen goods. And what erupted after that is when first of all, what they did was they separated the brother that I had talking to at the back of the car to give him his clothes, and took him to the front of the car. And when I looked up, they were in a scuffle, and he was trying to handcuff him, and he had put him over the hood of my car for what reason I didn't really know. Like I said, they accused us of selling hot clothes, and after I find out what the problem was in the end, or later down the line. So what happened when I seen that, instantly and automatically, like I told you, I used to try to fight all the time. My instinct was to go help the brother, in which I did. I went and grabbed the police that had a hold of him, and I disarmed him. I took his pistol from him, and he let the brother go, of course. And his partner was stunned, I guess, and he was standing there, froze. I guess he never seen anybody stand up for themselves, especially a black man. And I imagine they probably thought I was a kid anyway, because I always looked young. And like I said, I was only at least about, the most that I could think of would be age 22 at that time. And so what happened after that, all the brothers that happened to walk out the mosque see the red lights, and the police got us jacked up, we'll say, and they come over to give us a hand, help us. And then I think what happened is when I grabbed that gun, I just started shooting, because the officer's about from here to you, and I emptied the gun, but it hit him nowhere but on his elbow, period. And that was it. And I then ran across the street to the mosque, and I discarded the gun, I believe, in a sewage, and you know, the streets where the water runs in there. I remember throwing that gun in there and going toward the mosque, and at that time, it was 100 police or better confronting and converging onto the mosque and jumping out of the car and attacking. Right away, they start attacking him. I have one officer face to face with me. He happened to be a small officer, like myself, and that was a good thing, because he was trying to shoot me. He had pulled his gun out, and he had it about right to here till I could pull it right back to there. And by that time, Brother Ronald Stokes was diving at him, and I think that took his attention off of me for a minute, because he turned and he shot Brother Ronald while he was in the air. And at that time, I just took off. Went straight through the mosque and over to the Shabazz restaurant, told them what had happened. And they took me to my parents' house, because I had just gotten a flush wound in the shoulder, and that was the extent of it. And then my parents took me to the doctor, in the hospital, should I say. And that's where they brought all the brothers in, where I was on Avalon and Slauson. I really grasped onto Islam and thought it was the best thing to come along for us, you know. And until I got shot is when I got away from it, discouraged a little bit. But other than just the religion itself, I thought it was about the most proper religion that could benefit the black people.